make of the Speaker's comments yesterday about wanting to set caps on what the governor can negotiate when the contracts come up here in 2000?
Well, that's what Governor Walker did in Wisconsin. We think it's a bad idea. We think it inhibits collective bargaining. There's a lot of give and take that takes place in the collective bargaining process, and this just makes it more difficult for the parties to reach an agreement.
Mike Madiagn and Scott Walker in the same sentence?
Well, I mean, it's the same concept that you limit the amount that can be negotiated in. Now, Scott Walker did it by law, and apparently the Speaker wants to do it by resolution, but that would certainly inhibit collective bargaining. I don't know any public employees who got rich doing their jobs, whether it be a correctional officer, or a teacher, or a firefighter. So inhibiting their ability to negotiate, I don't think solves the problem. I think it's an attempt to scapegoat public employees for a problem that exists, and we're really saddened to see the Speaker try to scapegoat us for that problem. You know, the state employee salaries are a minor fraction of the overall budget, probably 5% of the overall budget. Illinois doesn't have a huge deficit because state employees make too much money. Illinois has a structural deficit because of our antiquated tax system, the fact that the rich people don't pay their fair share of taxes. It's not because a correctional officer makes too much money, or someone caring for a veteran at a vet's home makes too much money, or a child protective worker makes too much money.
I'm hearing some grumblings that the Speaker may not have the constitutional power to impose a cap. He can suggest a cap. He can have a resolution that says what he wants, but when it comes down to constitutional power, the governor is the one who has the ability to negotiate and sign whatever it is that he wants.
Well, whether that's the case or not, that may well be the case. I think it's bad policy, bad public policy for the legislature to pass such a resolution. I think it sends the wrong message. We think it sends a message that somehow public employees are responsible for the state's budget problems, which is not the case. We think it also binds the parties' hands in negotiations. There's always a lot of give and take that take place in negotiations, and this would just be a further hamstringing of that ability to negotiate.
Last question I have, and it jumped right out of my head. I hate it when. Does this set the tone? What are we getting off on a good foot? Are we going to be going
off on a bad foot because of the governor's actions? That we have a contract that he's trying to walk away from. So our first goal, of course, is to enforce our existing contract. And then we'll be beginning our negotiations with the state in a couple of months. Obviously, this sets a bad tone. We think it's a big mistake on the part of the Speaker to introduce this resolution. I know he's critical of our no layoff agreement, but in the absence of that no layoff agreement, they would be closing the Chester Mental Health Center. They would be closing the Singer Mental Health Center. They would be closing the Jacksonville Developmental Center. They would be closing the Logan Correctional Center. We think that would be a bad thing to do. I don't know if the Speaker thinks those are good things, or if members of the General Assembly think those are good things, but they should go to the communities. I was in Jacksonville earlier this week. There were 1,000 people there, including members of the Chamber of Commerce, local elected officials. They all think it's a bad idea to close that facility.
Is it too soon to even talk about the possibility of a strike? Is that even on the radar?
We're not. We have a collective bargaining agreement in place that doesn't allow us to strike during the terms of that agreement. And yes, there is a solution to the problem. There's a legislative solution. The members of the General Assembly should stand up to the governor, and they should reallocate the money in order to keep these facilities open so that the contract can be honored. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're hoping is going to happen here.